Hey everyone, how are you? See, if Alyssa was involved, my angle would be better. So I'm gonna be looking a little down rather than up like we usually do. Happy Sunday. Let me go ahead and get started over here on Facebook as well. What crazy times that there are so many platforms to go live on, but I think it's a great way to connect with as many people as possible. Let's give this about a minute or two in case people had their calendars set here for 3. I don't want them to miss anything going into this, but let's just hang out for a couple minutes here. We'll have everyone get on live, and then I'm excited to answer questions. So I have no time limit here. If it's 15 minutes or 30 minutes or an hour or whatever it is, you keep the questions coming. I am so excited to connect with all of you, and I want to celebrate. I think the main, not the main focus, but the big focus, I should say, is going to be celebrating Days of Our Lives 55 years. I know that the show itself has one coming out. I don't know exactly what they're going to do, but I know a lot of your favorite castmates are going to be on it. And just like the Day of Days, I think if you're not airing during the time of the event, then you're not there. So I don't think I'm going to be on that one. But here we are now, so I can have your I can answer all of your questions here now, and we can talk and chit chat about Days. You can ask me personal questions too. If anyone has personal questions, please feel free to ask those as well. And for those of you just tuning in, I'm looking up right here at my Facebook Live, and I'm looking right here at my YouTube Live. So wherever you're at, this when my head's going back and forth, this is what I'm doing. And so I appreciate you all. But I've got, oddly enough, ginger ale. I've got ginger ale today. Don't know why, but it tastes really good, and I'm gonna, have a little ginger ale here while we all connect. And let's give it just one more minute. And if I don't answer all of your questions, it's my apologies, but feel free to ask them a couple times because I might miss them. And I want to make sure that everyone's questions get answered. So here we go. Hello, everyone. Diana, how are you? Vito, what's up, Vito? Joni, what's going on? Vicky, Carol, Heidi, Wendy, hello. How is everyone doing? All right, 30 seconds here. 30 seconds, and we'll get started. Brittany and Becky, Deanna, how are you? Audra, we got Terry in the house and Joan in the house. Dwight, Linda, cool guy. Hey, cool guy. Hello, right back to you. Matthew. All right. I can't wait any longer. Let's go ahead and get started here. First of all, I want to thank you all for coming on this live. I know that we do a lot of podcasts and they're all filmed, and there's a little more more calmness to it because you're not live. So there's something really special for even myself here, knowing this is live and you're all right here with me. So thank you for spending your Sunday with me. I'm so excited to connect. For those of you who've been following our journey, Alyssa and myself decided to take this past week off. We have not taken a week off of content in probably 6 months. And every now and then we like to unplug from social media. We like to just recharge. There's some normalcy that can set in when you're not plugged into social media. So we spent a lot of time off of social this past week. I could not wait to be back on. So I'm not going to lie. There were times that I was just like chomping at the bit to get on social media, and especially putting out podcasts. We have so much fun doing it. And we figured too, with the election that is pretty much eating up everybody's attention right now, we don't have a political show. We figured, you know what? Why not just take this week off, kind of let the political conversation do its thing. There's a lot of commentators and a lot of professionals and a lot of people who do that. And we'll reserve that week for all of those people there so everyone could just fill themselves in. And then we'll be back tomorrow. So we're going to come back tomorrow with our podcast. So you'll have a Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We have a lot of exciting vlogs that we want to make. So I'm just going to go in order of the questions. So I'll go back and forth between personal questions and Days questions because I'm not going to be able to keep them organized. So whatever comes in, I'm probably going to answer Days and then personal and then Days and then personal. But and then we'll go from there. So where do I start? This is why we need a team. This is why we need a team, ladies and gentlemen. So the first question, have I been to Disney yet? I have not been to Disney World yet, even though we are 13 minutes away. 13 minutes away. I can't believe that we've been in Florida now. We got here October 3rd. It's November 8th. We've been here for 5 weeks already, and it really does feel like home. We're 13 minutes away from Disney World. 2 reasons we haven't gone yet is, one, we wanted to be safe, and the more and more we're going out, we're really finding ways that companies and everyone is being safe. So I definitely do feel safe going to Disney World now. Alyssa and I will keep our distance, wear our masks, and we're going to have some fun, and we want to vlog it because I think it's going to be a big vlog. I think it could be a lot of fun things that can happen when we're at Disney World. But the last problem that we're having, and I love my son, Benjamin, our little Maltese Shih Tzu, if there's anyone new. We have a 12-year-old Maltese Shih Tzu, and because of this lockdown and because Alyssa and I have been working from home and not really leaving, we've only left him once in the past 9 months. Well, we tried leaving him a few weeks ago, and we had the Nest Cam on, and he was crying for 20 minutes straight, losing his mind, and he never does that, but he's gotten so attached. So we're like, what are we going to do? How do we leave Benjamin here? So next week, we're going to start leaving him with like 5-minute increments, then 10-minute increments, and we have to retrain him to stay home because there's many things that Alyssa and I want to do, and we can't bring Benji all the time. So as soon as we can train him to be alone where he's not crying, because it was so sad to hear him howl. I've never heard him howl like a wolf in 12 years, and he was howling. And I looked it up online. They said it's a form of crying. So he was so sad, he was howling. And so we're going to go to Disney World. We have a huge list of things that we're going to do. For those of you who know me as Freddie, aka the wet blanket, who doesn't adventure out much, I got to tell you, being here in Florida, being here in Orlando, it's such a magical place for activities. And though there's many activities in Los Angeles, it's a different kind of vibe. I think Disney World really brings this magical, and I'm not even that big of a Disney fan, but you feel the energy in Orlando. It's a magical, magical town. There are so many things to do, endless activities. So we're just going to go have some fun, explore Florida for a very long time, and be able to put out those videos. So my long-winded answer is yes, we'll be going to Disney World, but we have not gone yet. Let me take one from Facebook now. Well, here's probably the biggest question. Why don't I tackle this up front for you all, because I'm seeing this multiple times. So how can I word this? So with Days of Our Lives. So from the whole story of being let go back in February, and then from what I heard back in February, that we might be coming back in the summer. And that was before the whole shutdown happened. That was before Days shut down and the whole world shut down. So I think it pushed everything back. It changed a lot. And in that time, we had to make that decision of where we wanted to go, where we wanted to live. It was very hard just in an apartment paying exorbitant amount of rent for all this time. And it's not healthy to just wait for your phone to ring. The audition process is really not going well right now. And we've been kind of trying to take a little step out of the acting industry and focus on creating content here for all of you, which has been, not even kidding you, one of the most exciting, exhilarating experiences of my life. And I owe this all to all of you, honestly, from the bottom of my heart. The fact that you come on and you watch our shows and that you're so invested. We have so many people live right now. Like, this is crazy to me. This is so awesome. And I seriously, I don't know how to thank you. I just like, thank you. We're able to bring being on camera and storytelling through our content here, but I do miss the being at work. I do miss being able to take a script and to break it down and to tell this amazing story. And I know that there will be a time that I can go back and I can do that at some point. I'm not sure exactly when that would happen, but like I said, even back in February, I would never close the door completely on Benjamin wants out. I would never close the door completely on it. That has been a huge part of my life. And for all of you watching, if you remember in your 20s, just what an imperative decade that was in your life, the friends that you met, the love that you may or may not have found or heartbreak, the ups and the downs, the mistakes. Your 20s really shapes you, and the people and the things that were in your 20s, I think, are with you forever. And Days of Our Lives was that for me. I was literally a 23-year-old. I left at 32. Talk about a decade of growth, and experiences in life, from falling in love to making money for the first time, to becoming an adult, and to having tons of bad things happen too, and having to overcome those challenges. It's all wound into any time I look at a good moment or a bad moment in my past decade, I was at work the next day. I was there to celebrate with the hair and makeup room and my fellow castmates, or they were there to pick me up when I was having some, even back in the car accident of 2014. I remember people helping me put on my clothes and Guy Wilson tying my shoes because I couldn't bend over. There was just so many moments in my life during that decade that will always be with me. So Days has my heart forever. I think I'll always be Sonny Kiriakis. And whether they end up having someone else take the position of Sonny in the future, or if I were to do it, I don't know. But the character has become a part of the Days of Our Lives family and the Days of Our Lives history. And I'm just so grateful that for the 9 years I got to do it. So yet again, my long-winded answer is I would definitely go back. I just don't know what it would look like, because we definitely were looking to be a Floridian family. As Alyssa and I have been thinking about our next steps and our next chapters in life, our goal was to always be in Florida. So if I wouldn't have been let go and they weren't resting my character and there was no pandemic, around this time, we would have flown to Florida and we would have started looking for places to live, because we're really thinking about having a kid here in the next 18 months to 2 years, if all goes well. And that's our plan. Alyssa's family's moving to Florida in the next few months. My parents are only an hour and 45-minute flight away. We're on the same time zone. And this is the next chapter of our life. So I really saw myself finishing up Days this past year. If it would have been my choice, I would have finished it up this last year, had a house here in Florida, and then probably commuted the last 4 to 6 months of my contract, and then maybe just pop in and out if that's what they wanted me to do. So that was kind of always the plan. So here we are now at this time, and I'm just very, very open and excited. I would go back, but I don't think I would ever sign a full contract ever again, just because the commute from Florida to LA would be just so treacherous. So if they happen to move to Orlando, I would for sure do that. But I think if they would ever do like a 13-week cycle, if they would ever do maybe like a 20-episode arc, or like how they had Greg Rickert come in a couple times, I think I could tell really good stories, and I could be very, very excited to continue that storyline. So that's kind of where my head is with all of that. I'm optimistic that Sonny will be back, whether it's for 1 episode or 10 episodes. And so we'll see how that all plays out. And of course, I will never be able to tell you until they announce it publicly. So if that were to ever happen, I would have to get approval from them to be able to share that. So I could never even give you a hint. If I knew, you would probably are going to know if I ever came back before I would, just because that's how the PR works over there. But yes, I'm open. I don't think it'll ever be a full-time thing ever again for me. But there's a lot of people who come in for 13-week cycles, and I would be honored if that was ever an option. But again, it's really out of my hands, and it's whatever the show wants to do in the future and whatever the network's going to do in the future. So so that kind of wraps up that whole thing. I hope I got everyone's angle on that, because I was trying to combine a few of the questions here. Let me go back over to YouTube here. And yes, I do. Someone says, isn't it ironic that me and Chandler both moved to the East Coast, that we're only a 9-hour drive away or a 45-minute flight away? That's where his family is. And it just so happens that Alyssa's family is going to be moving to Orlando. So that's kind of why we chose Orlando in the first place. Yes. So I think I will submit for the 2021 Emmys, because I truly believe, now this is me being biased because it's my work, but please let me know. This is one of the things that did help me, that if Sonny never did return, or Freddie never returned, I will say the thing that has made this a little easier, even though I didn't want to leave a year earlier from the show, is thank God I got the storylines that I got in 2019. I felt like up until that moment, there was a lot of challenges and a lot of choices and a lot of storylines that were left off the table for me to really expand my acting instrument. And this year, with my mom on the show passing away, with Will being in prison, and just all of those dynamics, some of my favorite scenes of yelling at Maggie, of having that finding out and yelling at Will in the nurse's station, not even yelling, but just so hurt, and then finding out about my mom and working with Wally. Like, there was a lot of really deep story that I got to portray, because I'm not complaining. It's really interesting when I'm playing Sonny. Let me see if I can move this where I hope does it look like, hold on. Does this help if I'm looking at that camera there? I guess it's all the same. But Sonny and Will had a lot of B storyline. They had a lot of B storyline much of the time, which made the actual workday pretty simple. But then the payoff when you watch it wasn't as great. When Sonny and Will had an A storyline for a little while, it was much harder at work that day. You had to prepare. You were a little more anxious. You had a lot more dialogue, a lot more emotion. But then the payoff of watching it and the growth of the characters is there. So selfishly, when it was a B storyline, I was like, this is going to kind of be a bummer, but it's going to be easier at work for Freddie. But when it's an A storyline, it's way more challenging, and the payoff is way, way bigger. So I think after all this time, it would be a shame for me not to submit at least one last time with Adrian passing away, and with me confronting Maggie. Even the scenes with Brock, with Evan in the prison, that back and forth. I actually have that on my reel, and there were just some real moments there, and that's kind of what I look for, are the real moments when it comes to the Emmys. Is where was I proud of myself, where I watch and go, that seemed real. There's still times, even though I feel like I've gotten much better at acting, there's still times I'll look at my work and I go, you did a good job acting there. Like, no one's going to know, but you kind of just said the line and it made sense. But then there's certain moments where it's just real. Like, you can see that the disconnect of Freddie and Sonny have become one. And there's these moments and you're just like, wow, like that was so real. And that's why I've always left flexibility in my acting, because I love that improv. Anytime we do a second take, I never do it the same way, because I like trying to recreate real moments. I'm not the kind of actor that makes choices and sticks to those choices. I like, just, if you have to do the scene 4 times, I'm doing the line. Like, I remember one of the last scenes I did with, it was with Uncle Vic. I remember walking in, I don't remember what it was, but I walked in the Kiriakis mansion and I stood behind the chair, and it's just like, what are you doing, Uncle Vic? Or whatever the line was. We had to do that because of the tracking of the shot. For some reason, we had to do it 4 times. Every time I walked in, I said, what's going on, Uncle Vic, in a different way for it to feel organic and real. Now, this platform, working on a soap, allowed me to do that. There's a lot of television and movies that they're like, this is how it has to be done. You're doing it this way. And it is what it is. So I was just very grateful that Days allowed me to kind of just do my own thing. And a lot of the things I said was 95% on the paper, and the rest we were kind of able to, as long as the story didn't change, you could say whatever you wanted. But yes, I will for sure. I will for sure submit for the Emmys. All right, let me find one here. So if there's a couple similar, I'm holding them and seeing if there's more, and I'll answer it all together. Oh, and by the way, while I'm looking for this, if you're on Facebook or YouTube, and make sure to follow or subscribe and turn on those notifications so that you're always notified through a push notification when we post a video. And if you're on Facebook and you haven't subscribed on YouTube, we do a lot of stuff on YouTube as well. And if you want to do me a huge favor after this live and just go to YouTube and subscribe, that would be awesome. Okay, that's a really good one there. All right. See, I'm going to weave 3 or 4 questions into one speech here. Okay. Okay, so now I got ahead of myself. So the first question is, have I talked to Chandler? Him and I did text. Um, when was that? Maybe 2 weeks ago. So we were catching up a little bit 2 weeks ago, and I'll watch his stories on Instagram when he posts, which he doesn't post as much, but when he does, I always like to watch his stuff. And so we'll keep up, and I'm sure I'll be talking to him again in the next couple weeks. But yeah, we stay in touch for sure. I talked to Billy Flynn a little bit. There's a few people, like once I was getting ready to leave and once we left California, I think a lot of people, because we never really announced it, that we were leaving. A lot of my friends and coworkers and just people in general were like, wait a minute, like you're going to Florida? So a lot of people during the week we were traveling on the road trip became aware that we were actually moving. So there was a lot of people that reached out to me that I was able to have conversations with. And I even talked to Wally on the phone the other day. We had a really, really nice conversation, and I just can't say enough things nice about Wally. I appreciate him so much. He's such a great on-screen dad and such a great friend in real life. And Judy, I texted with her a little bit. So I definitely do keep in touch with a few people from the show. And then there's obviously, it's just probably like every work environment, no matter where you work, there's certain people that when you're at work, like if I were to go back, there's certain people that I would jump right back into an in-work relationship with as if nothing changed. And then some people you talk to outside of work, and then other people you get along with, but for some reason, just the connection's not there. So you're just like, you wish them well, you work together, but you don't really pursue that friendship from either side. People are just kind of like, hey, yeah, you're great, happy birthday, or that kind of stuff. So, but I never had an issue. Days of Our Lives, after 9 years, almost 10 years, never had an issue with one single person on set. Never had an issue with one single person on the cast, the crew. Like there was never anything sketchy. So I feel very grateful. Like no one was hard to work with. It was just easy. I mean, just the work itself is hard, but everything else around it was very, very smooth. Someone asked as well about Alyssa. Alyssa has been working since 2014. She left her personal assisting job. She was a personal assistant for 6 years, and she was pursuing an acting career, auditioning and working. And then in 2014, she had shifted to online sales. She shifted to marketing, and then she's kind of made a few pivots, but has been able to sustain a living fully online. And then as we now shifted into full-time content creation about 18 months ago, she builds an entire business on Instagram and on TikTok, and does a lot of deals like with fashion. There's always boxes coming to the door of like new purses and jewelry. And so she works with all these companies and she does marketing for them, and she gets to work from home, which is great. And especially in these times, I think a lot of things were moving to working from home. But now with everything being shut down and so many people's jobs up in the air, we feel very grateful that we do have a way to make money from home, which is really great. And then in my line of work with acting, by the way, I just saw the Hallmark question. With acting, that's just kind of how the business goes, where you get paid in like chunks. And I've just always been aware, even with days being consistent for 9 years, I always knew it was going to go away one day. Whether the show was going to be canceled, whether I was going to be let go, or something else would have come up where I wouldn't, do it, or whatever would have happened. So we always saved money, because I've seen my friends who would book a primetime show and they'd get paid like $500,000 for the first year. And they would, go get a big house and cars and buy all their friends food and drinks, which is, hey, that's lovely. But you have your manager, you have your agent, and you have high taxes. So actors pretty much make about 40% of their money. So if you hear an actor makes $1 million in the year, they're probably making about $400,000, which is still a lot of money. But for people, who do a show for 1 year on primetime, if you make 500,000, you're taking home about 200,000, which is still, again, a lot of money, but not a lot where it's guaranteed. If you're a lawyer and you get to that level, you're probably going to be able to sustain 200,000 a year for quite some time. With acting, like many of my friends, they made the big chunk of change and their show gets canceled. So you're living on 200 grand a year when you don't make 200 grand a year after taxes anymore. So I always knew that. So even though we did buy a couple little things, we really saved, and I knew that, we would be able to transition one day. But it also gives you the ability not to hop around and not ruin your career, but you don't want to have to pick jobs because you need money. I always wanted to be able to take a year off or 6 months off or wait 18 months if I had to before a new role came out. So when it comes to Hallmark or Lifetime, I appreciate the network. I know a lot of people in the soap world work there because they know how to pump out content. Hiring a soap actor, if you have a 1 or 2 takes or a low budget, that we have the skill set to really go in there and crush it. But I don't have a burning desire just to go act. I have a burning desire to go act if it makes sense to me on the back end of what's that going to do for my future. If I'm just going to go act for fun, I really don't want to be honest. If I'm going to go act for like a little chunk of change, it's not really worth it. But if there was a pivotal role that meant something, or that pivotal role was going to, I was going to have like 6 lines with Dwayne Johnson, then yeah, that makes sense. Or if I was going to do a 3-episode spot on like the new Dexter, which is coming back and shoots in Miami, 100%, because I'm a fan of the show. So I wouldn't just take something because it's available. I've had a few different things that have come around that I probably could have done, but I'm just really focused on everything else that we're working on. And I have this talent that I've built in a resume for acting, but I want it to be something that I'm a huge, huge fan of, or that it pays insanely well, or that it's going to open a door for me to do something greater. I'm really trying to make decisions now because I've set my life up in a way where I don't want to make decisions based off of money. I want to make decisions based off of what I want to do and who I want to do it with. So if there was a great role for Hallmark, I would be interested. If it's just kind of a cookie cutter kind of role, even though it's viewed by millions, I just don't have interest in going to some location for 3 weeks to play the guy who gets the girl and it's happily ever after. I think that's great to watch. Me and Alyssa watch them constantly, especially now on Netflix. So again, not knocking that at all, love them. But for me to want to go spend my time when we have so many things going on, it has to be something that I really, really, really want to do. So that is how I will leave that one. Wait, I just answered one here. Let me go back here to YouTube. Oh, here they are. Okay. How's it working with Uncle Vic? Yeah, no, John Aniston's amazing. He's incredible. I haven't heard if that was true or not. Does anyone know? Did they end up really building that set in his house? I know there was that story. Would I do an action film, and will it be on Peacock? Would you consider an acting gig in the UK or New Zealand? So yes, I would 100% consider an acting gig in UK or New Zealand. Yet again, that experience is got me excited. So if there was a show, and if Hallmark was shooting boy meets girl, boy is the prince who falls in love and they get married on Christmas, and it was shot in New Zealand, 100% I would do it for free. Because the actual experience of going to New Zealand, capturing the behind the scenes of being there and sharing it with all of you on YouTube and Facebook would be the actual value in that. And being able to experience New Zealand for the first time, meeting local people, think about the podcast episodes, think about the content we could create. That I would literally do the Hallmark movie for free. If they flew me and Alyssa out there, I would do it for free because of that experience. So UK or New Zealand would be 100%. I don't know what Peacock's going to do. We've had a couple residuals come in from SAG-AFTRA. So anytime, for any of you that don't know, I know you probably heard actors get residuals. And what that essentially means is that we get paid for our upfront episode that we shoot. And then if they play it in another country or they rerun it on a different network, you get a portion, sometimes extremely small, like 3 cents, where you go, I would have rather just had the stamp than the 3 cent check. It seems like the paper and the stamp and everything was like 60 cents for a 3 cent check. But now they do direct deposit, so that's great. But I still get from my show Medium. I did a co-star on Medium in 2007, and I still get $2, $10, 4 cents. Like I probably make about $100 a year on the residuals from something I did in 2007. Same thing with 90210. A little bit there. And then Days has been coming in with great residual income, which I'm like, hey, keep it coming. And part of that, the reason I'm bringing this up is part of it, when you look at the breakdown of what you were paid, there's something called an internet fee, which I never experienced before. And I'm starting to wonder if that happens to be because it's on NBC.com or Peacock. And my reason for bringing all of this up is there's 14,000 Days of Our Lives episodes with how many actors? And if there's a regulation that actors need to be paid for their episodes, I think Peacock or NBC would go, look, if we bring all 14,000 episodes here and have to pay all the actors, even if it's a fraction, like $50, what would that actually cost to bring Days of Our Lives over? And would people sit and watch all 14,000 episodes? I don't know. When we were on Bravo for 15 minutes, they started in 2011. Which was great. They actually chose, I was so excited. I was like, oh my God, we're going to be on Bravo. This could be like great residual income, but it only lasted for 3 weeks. And then they took it off Bravo. But they started 3 weeks after I started airing. So I go, how great is this? Because if they would have started back in the 80s, it could have aired for all these episodes, but I wasn't on it. So selfishly, I was like, how cool they started in 2011. But I think if they did start in like 2010 and they put all of them on there, would be really cool. Or maybe like, the highlights, like maybe like they have to put Marlena being possessed. I've heard that I have heard more stories about Marlena being possessed storyline than my own storyline in 9 years, and I've never seen it. So that should be on there. The iconic weddings. So I think Peacock, there is a possibility, but it seems like Days is doing well. So if they can just keep it up, they'll be on NBC, and then they can put it on Peacock and NBC as well. But the writing's on the wall. I feel cable is, slowly going away. Everyone's subscribing to Disney Plus and, HBO Max and Netflix and Hulu and Amazon. The list goes on. And if you heard of that other one, what's it called? Oh yeah, it's the Freddie and Alyssa show. We have a subscription as well. If you'd like to contribute and support the podcast and you want some extra perks, even though we didn't put out a video last week publicly, we did put one in our membership group. So if you've got a spare $9.99 a month lying around and you want to support your fellow content creator here, you can do it on Facebook under the fan subscription, or you can do it here on YouTube under the join button. And you get tons of different perks. I go live once a month for the members. So if you want this to be a monthly thing where you get to hang out and you've got the spare change and you want to look into that, we'd much appreciate it. It's a way for us to control our content without having to seek investors and having cooks in the kitchen. We just love that our relationship is we make content, we watch the comments, we listen to all of you, and we produce this content together. So if you want to check that out, that would be awesome. We're doing a lot of fun stuff in there. But I think every network's going to go to some sort of app. So I don't see why Days would be any different. Let me get a sip of water here while I get my next one. Yes, Bob, that would be cool. They should do that. Sonny should Zoom or FaceTime in. Why not? Especially these days, right? We're all used to it. That'd be really cool. Why we chose Florida. Alyssa grew up in Coral Springs. So she grew up for 18 years here. My family, my close family relatives all vacation in Orlando often. My mom and dad are in Ohio. They're very, very close, a quick plane ride away. And Alyssa's parents are now moving back to Florida because they went to New Jersey for 9 years, but they're moving back to Florida in Orlando. So, and we love the weather. I really, really love Florida. I was a little nervous, and I think that's why I didn't really talk about moving here too openly, because there was a part of me that after 15 years, because for all of you too, I mean, I think you can relate to this in some capacity of, you don't have to go to Hollywood for it to be different, or for how many of you went away to college or lived somewhere else. But I left high school 3 weeks after graduation, which people ask, what's one of your biggest regrets? Not that this was a regret, but I wish I would have waited till after my senior summer. I missed my entire 3 months of hanging out with all my friends in Ohio, which is beautiful in the summer. But I went to LA right away, 3 weeks after graduation. So I never knew what real life was like outside of the entertainment bubble. So this is my first 5 weeks of just living a normal life and not being in this busy city in an apartment, and everything being consumed by the entertainment business. So for those of you who live in LA, you know what I mean. You can't go get a drink. You can't go to a restaurant. You can't go to the dentist office. You can't go anywhere without it being about the industry. Every server, every bartender, every dentist, their niece, their daughter, their wife does lighting. Their niece is in a play. Their son is the director of a new film. I mean, it's just, you're constantly consumed with the industry. And I remember Johnny Depp one day, not that I'm anywhere near his league, but in a small scale, I understand it. He loves living in France because he goes, I don't want to talk about my movies every second of every day. Sometimes I just want to talk about cheese. And I understand that, and then I was never at the level of fame that I couldn't go anywhere. Like, I forget that I was ever on TV, or even when I was on TV, because I'm never really stopped, like once a month. But I don't go out like a famous person where they're like, I'm going to be stopped 17 times today, and all I want to do is get some milk. I had just enough micro fame to get a taste of how cool it is without it being overwhelming. So I kind of got the best of both worlds, where I was like, I love it when someone, if anyone ever sees me out here in Orlando, Florida, or Kissimmee, if I'm saying that right, come say hi. I love it. I love saying hello. I just have like the perfect amount of air quote celebrity that I don't feel invaded. My privacy doesn't feel invaded. I don't feel afraid to post if I'm at a coffee, like if I'm at Disney World, like I won't be afraid to post that I'm there. I'm not like this mega famous person that it would ruin your time if 14,000 people swarmed you. So this is my very first time of ever living a normal life where and this is going to sound so silly, but I want to share it with you. The garbage goes out by the driveway. You have to roll the garbage bins out by the driveway Mondays and Thursdays. Wednesdays is recycling. I get this weird pleasure that will eventually become annoying, I'm sure. But I lived in an apartment for 15 years. The act of washing your car in the driveway, of putting out a chair in your garage when the breeze and the rain is out in August in Ohio, or out here right now, it's so windy and cloudy, but it's 77 degrees in Florida. The changing of the weather, the clouds, just having a yard to go just stand in. Alyssa had this, she wanted to post it on Instagram, but I felt embarrassed. She caught me just staring. I was just in the yard, just like looking at the trees, just standing out there. But I lived in the city for 15 years. Like, I'm not gonna go stand barefoot on a sidewalk where there's skateboarders and bikes and traffic going by. But the little act of washing your car, taking out the trash, putting your feet in the grass, just go into a grocery store where people are proud of what they do. I think that's another weird thing in LA that I've realized is that everywhere else in the world, people are proud of what they do. Like when you go into a convenience store, like the person there, whether they like their job or not, they're like, this is what I do. Like I'm a clerk at this convenience store, or I clean pools. I clean pools. I clean roofs. I feel people are proud. There's something in LA that I feel at one point, every single person wanted to do something in the industry. And now they're kind of like, well, I came out here to play music and now I clean roofs. Like it's like no matter where you go, it just seems like people are just clocking in and clocking out because they're just like, I'm still going to get a call. I'm going to book something. I'll be out of this crap hole restaurant soon. What do you want? You want the sliders with no cheese? Not that they're rude all the time, but I'm just exaggerating my point here. I just love the normalcy that you run into people and like you talk to people and they're just like, it's not about the industry. But I've also, I'm in kind of a transition of careers in a way, because even if I act, it's not going to be the same as being in LA in 2010, where you have to be there. You have to go to auditions in person. So I'm also in this weird transition of like, you know, what's the future going to look like here in 3 to 5 years? Like, what am I doing? So the content thing's going well, and we're doing, you know, many other things online and having a blast. And I have a lot of hope and confidence in what we're doing, but it feels funny because I worked. Someone said, another question I saw was, what's it like not working at days? It's weird because I've worked for 9 years straight. So I think no matter what job you have, for those of you who lost your job in the pandemic, I'm sure you feel the same way I do. You're just like, what the hell? Like you kind of just, you lose the accountability of, well, on Monday, I'm up at 6 a.m. and I don't feel like it. You know, you have to have a lot of willpower when you're not working for someone. That's why a lot of people who are independent contractors or entrepreneurs, it's hard to succeed because you have to be a self-starter. That's why Uber, before the pandemic, had such a high turnover rate, because the people who were motivated did their first 3 weeks and then they're like, there's no boss to have to check in with. You have to be on your own merit. So I can see why entrepreneurship is very hard. For someone like myself, I like the freedom. I like the creative freedom. That's one thing I don't miss is the schedule. Because I'm not a procrastinator. I'm a very self-starting person and accountable. And that's why even taking this week off of podcasting killed me. I tried to convince myself. I go, Freddie, just take a week, man. It's a week. It's a week. But I just missed you all. I missed you all. I could not wait for this live. I was like, I cannot wait to get back. I cannot take a week off. But then I'm like, you know what? It's making me feel really good about it. And maybe for all of you too, you're just like, oh my gosh, like I like watching it every week. You know, taking that break, I think for both of us was kind of cool, but I don't want to do it often. I might have to do it around Christmas just because everybody's going to be busy doing their own stuff. So I might have to do another week there, but we're going to try to film a few vlog episodes so that we can still sprinkle them in because I missed all of you. But yeah, I would say one of the pros. It's a pro and con of what I miss about days. I love the structure in the sense that like I'm a man of my word and I have to show up and do a great job even if I don't feel like it on 20% of the days. And just the camaraderie of when things happen in my life, like you talk to the makeup artist, like I talk to my makeup artist like all the time, no matter what was going on. So you miss out on that. And then if you add the pandemic on top of it, it kind of took away this experience because I just don't know what is. I mean, think about this for me. Worked on a show for 9 years. Was basically employed my entire life by an employer. I was an employee from when I started at McDonald's in 2000 I don't even know anymore, 2004, 2005 maybe, when I was 17. I worked at McDonald's. I worked at a bunch of different places, the AAA. I ran food. I was a dog sitter. I worked at American Eagle for a year and a half. I worked at Outback for a year and a half. I worked as an actor commercially and auditioning like a professional auditioner the whole time in 2010. Then worked on 90210 3 weeks after 90210. Booked Days of Our Lives. Worked on that the whole time. I took a few months off in 2015, but I was really busy on another project that I was working on. And then went back to Days. And then February, that's it. And then 3 weeks later, the pandemic happened and shut the whole world down. So it's so strange that I've been an accountable employee for 15, 16 years. And this is the first time that we've been fully on our own. And I'm anxious, but it's excited anxious. Like I'm not nervous about it. It's just hard to talk about because it's like such a big step to make, but I like being on my own. And I love the relationship that I have with Days because I mean, I kind of hit a home run if I'm able to build my own businesses, build my own content, work with all of you, produce our own little skits eventually and our own little short films and more podcasts and everything that we're doing, and then kind of fly into LA for 3 weeks here, 3 weeks there. I mean, that's being spoiled. So we'll see how that all happens, but there's a lot going on and I'm still trying to like figure it all out. And that's what we spent this week doing. It's getting a lot of just little stuff done and seeing what our next steps are. But I'm in a very, very good place. And a lot of it has to do with all of you and your ongoing support. The transition out of Days, I didn't know what people were going to say and do. And I know people were sad, but everybody's been so supportive. So I really appreciate you. So might as well do an hour because why not? I would probably do longer, but I can tell my voice is going to be going because I'm projecting. But I cannot stop at 46 minutes. I'm too much of a numbers person. We're doing the hour. So ask your questions here. I'm going to kind of scroll through and see. Okay, wedding. I'll mention the wedding. Days is gone. Oh my goodness. Okay. Here we go. Okay, so so the wedding is we're officially locking down a location, and we're going to be coming out with that announcement here in the next couple weeks. The interesting part, and we're going to talk about this more on the podcast probably sometime this week. If we announce the location officially, we kind of can't give the date because we realized that. And as much as I was saying, Disneyland, and it's like, but for the wedding itself, I think we're going to end up having to keep the date a secret and then let the location be known, or flip-flop it and let the date be known, but not the location. But I think it's more exciting to know the location because then the date can just be a surprise. But we're still working that out. So that's a little premature for me to answer. We're still kind of going through that. And we've been looking at so many different venues. And I just didn't realize like how just planning a wedding is so insane. But we're going to do another big podcast on that because there's so much I want to fill you all in on. So I don't want to take up the live stream for the rest of the time on that. But we'll do an extensive wedding podcast pretty soon here to catch you up. Yes, I would do I think me and Chandler at some point will do something together, even if we self-produce it, even if it's a short film. I think him and I will definitely do something in the future. Actors, no, we have wardrobe provides actors with their clothes. What made me go to LA? Well, back in 2006, if you wanted to be an actor, you had to be in LA. Or New York or Chicago. Nowadays, you can be anywhere. So if you have kids that want to be an actor, unless they're really ready to go out, please have them build something substantial on their social media platforms in their hometowns before moving to the expensive, crazy town of Los Angeles, California. It made me into the man I am today, and I've got 6 books I could write about my LA life. But it would have been a different experience in life if I was able to stay in Ohio, build on these platforms, and book things and fly in from work rather than having to move. And it's insane how crazy of a city Los Angeles is and how expensive. I think I would do theater at some point, but it's kind of has never really pulled me in. Theater for me has never really interested me. But I do love the live aspect, and I love the freedom. I love it, but I think in the future, theater could be in my cards, but definitely not in the near future. You know what? I thought I remembered this really good question. I was like, oh, this person asked the best question. And I was like, I won't forget it, and even told myself that. I have not watched Days since I've left. And to be completely honest with you, the first 2 years I was on the show, I watched it all the time. From 2014 to like 2020, I maybe watched 10 episodes. And then once we started doing the Days of Our Lives recap, when I was getting ready to leave, we did a podcast, like 16 of them, every Friday leading up until my last episode. We started watching them. And I wish I would have thought of that idea sooner, because it was such a big hit. And I was even thinking about going back and recapping some of the old ones. And we looked into it. We had everything lined up. But it's just kind of, I could maybe do a special, but to do it every week of looking into the past on things, it just wasn't as exciting as I initially thought it would be. So we ended up changing that idea where I could still go back and do a couple maybe of the big scenes of like the marriage, but to try to consistently do it on Fridays. I was like, I don't want to just keep watching old episodes. I was like, we want to look to the future. So, but yeah, I never really watched it because we're so consumed in it. I'm everything about my life was Days of Our Lives. You watch it on the monitors at work. They have these monitors everywhere in your room, and you watch the live feed of what's being filmed, or you have it on the background. You wouldn't really watch it unless there was like something cool happening, or it was in the background, or the acting teacher. She'd be like, oh, I need to see Chandler's scenes today. And I was like, oh, what's he have? And he's talking to Marlena about blah, blah, blah. So then you'd watch it for a little bit in between your record or your rehearsing. And then everything you did, all the interviews, like everything was about Days. So you just never really wanted to watch it because you're just like, I just was there all week. And you just, we just didn't watch it. I know some people do, but I actually never watched it that often. St. Augustine, Florida was an actual location Alyssa and I almost got married at. If we would have done the wedding initially in 2018, we're like, we're engaged, let's get married right away. And we looked into the Treasury. The Treasury. It was an old bank. I think it was called the Treasury. We looked into it. We almost got married in St. Augustine. I don't know why Sonny wears suits all the time. I never fought it. I told somebody this before. I never fought it because I always feel like I looked really good, because anytime I would like gain 5 or 10 pounds, if I was in a suit, no one could tell. So I was like, oh, this is great. So I kind of never fought the suits because I was like, oh, if I'm in a t-shirt or something, I was like, if I got like a little extra 5 or 10 pounds on me, I was like, people can tell in my t-shirt on my stomach or something. But I was like, with a button down tucked in and a suit jacket, I'll take it because I always looked really good. But I think I don't know why they just stuck to it. And I was kind of the poster child of the CEO and the leading man in that sense. And I really enjoyed the way that they dressed me. Okay, let me scroll here. Yeah, I never got my bottom teeth fixed. I got braces on my top, but I never got my bottoms fixed. And I never really cared to do so. I kind of like it. It's just a pain in the ass to floss, so I have to work extra hard on that. And anytime I go to the dentist, they're always just like, if we straighten these out, you'll be able to keep them cleaner so much easier. Or you can just come every 4 months. I'm like, I'll come every 4 months. I want to make sure my teeth are always sparkling and that I'm healthy. Just bear with me here. I just want to I'm gonna allow some dead space to happen just so I can find some good questions here. They're all good questions. I'm just trying to lump some of them so I don't repeat myself. Ooh, that's a good one. So let me start there because I'm getting ahead of myself here. Yes. So once the world gets opened again, and I'm planning on doing some in-person events. So I don't know what that will look like. Me and Alyssa definitely have spent some time trying to figure out what that would be, but we also don't want to spend too much time because God forbid things are still like this in a year from now. We didn't want to waste the energy of trying to figure it out, but we definitely want to do a little traveling and come to you. I think I've always had a dream of doing some sort of tour where we let you know all the dates so that you don't have to waste money on hotels and flights. So instead of it being just LA or just New York, what if it's LA, New York, Minneapolis, Nashville, Orlando, Charlotte, so that you can go, oh, well, I'm not going to spend money to fly to LA and get a hotel. Let me just drive 6 hours to Charlotte. I can, spend the night one night and come back. So I wanted to give people options. I always look at all of you as I always put myself in your shoes, and I try to do what's best for you so that it's a great experience. And that was the same thing as we're planning our wedding. People are like, it's your day, do what you want. And I was like, but my personality works like I wanted people to leave the wedding going, that was the best wedding I've gone to. Not the best where I need to have the best wedding, but just that they were like, everything about this was thought out with us in mind. It's just how my mind operates. I go, what is good for all of you? What makes it easier for all of you? Because the better experience you have, just the better it is for me. I'm happier, you're happier. But we have so many people now. I think ever since we started taking this podcast serious, and not that we didn't take it serious, but I mean like really putting it out there a couple times a week, we've built such depth with so many of you, and I want to be able to meet you in person. So this is definitely the year. So I think when everything opens back up, people are going to be excited to go out and do things that are fun. And I want to really find out what we can do for these events that are fun. What can we do that, that it's not quick. I would always do those quick events because they were corporate mandated. NBC. I mean, how do you successfully have an event with 1,000 fans? How do you not push people through the line? Like how? Because there's just not enough time. So I want to also solve that problem because it's no one's fault. It's just the sheer math of it that you can't spend 5 minutes with 1,000 people. So I want to try to solve that when we do events where there's like a limit so that everyone can have a fun time where they're not just in a line. I don't want people just to stand in a line. I've always wanted there to be something fun going on. So while people are waiting, it's like a great time. They're not just in a line waiting to get 1 minute in one photo. So we're going to try to figure out a way, because that's going to be the back end of all this. Events are going to be something Alyssa and I spend a lot of time on. So in the meantime, we're just going to build, because in order to have successful events and travel and rent out locations and do things fun, having a lot of people who want to attend, even if it's 100 people per location, and we have like reasonable ticket prices so that we can actually get everything set up in a good way. Being able to fill those is going to be great. So over the next year or 6 months, hopefully it doesn't take longer than that with this whole shutdown, we'll be able to continue to build, share the podcast with more people. So if we're in your hometown and we brought you value and you go, hey, I'm going to bring a friend and go see them in person and say hello. And again, we want to be fun. We don't want you just to go, even though that's so kind of you, just to see us and get a picture or something, or to hang out. Like, we want it to be an event that you're going there to have a great time. And on top of that, we get to hang out, take pictures, sign autographs. But like, the event itself is something more than just standing in a line. So we're going to work on that. So thank you for that question about the event. I'm going to keep going, guys and gals. See, Deidre Hall. I can never say you guys anymore without saying guys and gals, because she corrected me years ago. Hey guys, I'm not a guy. Oh, that's right, Deidre. All right, guys and gals. So now I always say guys and gals. So with writing, this is the dilemma. Ladies and gentlemen. I love writing. I love writing. We've written a reality show, meaning you have to make a pitch deck and you have to write an outline of what happens in each episode. So there is writing involved. And we have an ensemble script, a comedy that we've written, that we believe in so much. And we've been on the marketing and selling of these two. So for me, I don't want to write something else, because the problem isn't the content in my mind. I believe we have a great comedy. I believe we could have a great reality show of some sort. It's how do you get good enough, or how do you meet the right people, or how do you sell it? There are so many people, and I'm glad that I wrote all these scripts. I've got so many scripts with my buddies back in the day. I have so many script ideas, but I don't want to spend all this time writing them just to say, hey, look, everyone, I got 17 scripts that I love that I can't sell. So I'm trying to figure out, who do I need to meet? What do I need to do to sell one of these, to then go, okay, now let me write another one. Or yet again, to plug our membership program, we're using this membership program of the $10 a month to be an ongoing crowd fund. Because once we build this to 1,000 people in the membership, we can start putting that money aside for 3-4 months. And now we've got $40,000 that Alyssa and I could go hire a film crew, and we could shoot our own reality show and put it on YouTube for free. Or we could go and shoot Unplugged, our movie, put it out, and then allow all the good reviews to spark interest of a production going, wait a second, you all shot this for $50,000 and it got 2 million views and everyone liked it? Why don't we make a second one? Or what else do you have to write? And we'll pay you to write it, and then we'll do it. So that's why we keep building this as well, because we'll just produce our own thing. We'll build our team out. We want to get a producer. We want to get some videographers, and we're going to build out ourselves a nice little team here. And we'll expand on the podcast. We'll expand on, I have a feeling some point in my career, we'll get into some sort of news commentary. Maybe not political, but news. And, but we just need help, like, as two people who do all of it, the most we can do is 3 podcasts a week and a vlog. And that's a 60-hour work week. And that's not including all the marketing, all the other time off of that where you're brainstorming, researching. But if Alyssa and I could just be the talent, and we could just sit down, and I could podcast, I could do what we just did here every day, but on a live, because I don't have to edit this. It's just going to post and everyone's able to watch. But if we've got these cameras here and I have to edit, line up the audio, create the thumbnails, like, the editing is what takes all the time. So once we can hire an editor, once we can have a producer, once we can have camera people, how great is it going to be when Alyssa and I go to Disney World? Remember back in the day, for those of you who've been here for a while, you can search on our YouTube, and I think I have a couple on Facebook. We had a gentleman, Brian, who we paid to shoot 7 of our vlogs for us and edit them, but he was almost $1,000. So we couldn't do that once a week, but we were at, we're like, I was working heavily at the show at the time. We had some extra money and he did the first few for like 500. But if we can have 2 camera people who have us mic'd up and we don't have to worry about the audio, we don't have to worry about the camera, we don't have to do the editing, we don't have to come up with the thumbnail, we don't have to post it on YouTube, we don't have to post it on Facebook. Someone's doing all of that. And we just get to direct it in the sense of, hey, we talk to our audience. They want to see us at Disney World. We're going to go to Disney World. We've got Brian and Kelly, and they're going to help, and they're going to shoot it, and they're going to edit it. And then we're going to go on YouTube, and we'll be able to see what they've put. We'll check all the copy. We'll go, great, this is perfect. Let's put it out. Then we'll be able to produce an extraordinary amount of content, because I could do a news update every day. I could do a podcast every day. We could do 3 vlogs a week if all we had to do was be the talent and the director of that. I don't want to hire people that are going to tell us what to do. I just want people that we hire who are the best people at video, best at audio, best at editing, that we say, you do all this because you love it and you're great, and then we'll direct and we'll be the talent. Ooh, it would be awesome. So that's our vision. That's what we're doing. So we're using YouTube and Facebook and all these platforms and Instagram to produce content for free, tons of it for free. And we are then doing the back-end subscription model, which is becoming very popular, not only for us, but for a lot of creators, where it's an ongoing crowdfund. And that's going to be kind of the future. Imagine Alyssa and I being able to use that crowdfunding money every month to pay for a team of 4 people, to then get so big, to then pay to be able to produce our own film and then to put it out. So we just want to do this in-house. I think that's the way of the future. Instead of me, like, I would much rather be able to film our movie Unplugged, give it to all of you for free, and you say this was the best thing ever, or this was the biggest piece of garbage I've ever seen. I will take the win or I'll take the loss. But I don't like that I have to get 17 people's approval in between that process. All that matters is, do we believe in it as the creator, and do you all like it as the audience? Even the next Robert Downey Jr. film, does he like it, and what does the audience think is all that matters. There are 17 people in the middle that are saying, we need to do this, we need to do that, and people still put out movies and they lose $50 million because someone within that 17 gatekeepers messed up. When all that matters is, what do we like and what do you like? But in between, we're having assistants and producers and people and writers and directors go, we don't really like this, or we need you to change this, or your reality show needs more drama. I'm like, we're not doing trash reality TV. Not doing trash reality TV. I enjoy it. I don't want to be a part of it. That's not our brand. We're not going to be fake and inauthentic and have fake arguments over dishes. That's not Alyssa and I. Alyssa and I look at the world as, you're going to get hit in the face by challenges from outside your home. The world is going to hit you with challenges and bad news. Why would Alyssa and I want to create challenges and bad news within our home with each other when we're on the same team? We have to be a united front, and we need to fight the outside challenges together. And we both understand that. So even when we do bicker, it's over in 5 minutes. We both apologize. Mainly I apologize, because I'm the one that, she's always just, literally, she is who you see. She is so bright, so bubbly constantly. Sometimes I'm impatient, but I easily correct. I'm like, I'm sorry, I was just frustrated. Like, my apologies, I love you. I kiss her, and we move on. And it's never anything personal. It's never immature, never breaking things, leaving, packing suitcases. It's just little bickering stuff. But we're not going to make a fake reality show. So a lot of the producers we talked to who liked our reality show, they're just like, well, it's all positive. I was like, yeah, there's a lot of positive shows, like the singing competitions. You just watch a bunch of talented 8-year-olds and 72-year-olds sing or play an instrument, and you sit at home and cry because it's inspiring. It makes you want to follow your dreams. And that's what we want as a reality show. We want to show people the behind the scenes and the growing of this podcast space, of everything that we're doing, of getting married, of starting a family. We're going to have natural life drama, but I don't want to create fake drama and change who we are. And that's the biggest wall we're running into. So we're not going to sell out because I don't want 15 minutes of fame. I want to carry this legacy forever. So that's why we're being very picky. That's why people say, why don't you want to talk about politics, or why don't you want to bring up this, or why don't you want to bring up this? I'm like, it's just, there's no need to create friction for a quick high right now. I care about what we're producing and how we make people feel when I'm 40, when I'm 50, when I'm 60. Same thing with Alyssa. A lot of people on Instagram, you guys and gals know this, how easy it is for, not easy, but for some women and even guys, which I would do if I were in better shape. So I'm not knocking it. She has a classy Instagram and she works with classy brands. But there's a lot of women out there who are in the bikinis that are showing off their booty, and that gets a lot of attention. But you can't do that forever. So yet again, not knocking it. Get your money while you can. Do what you got to do. But if Alyssa were to do that, you can't be the booty girl at 47. But if you create a positive, inspiring life and vision and brand, and you build genuine relationships with your audience, we all go on this journey together. We're going to make mistakes along the way. But as long as you're not fake, as long as you're not trying to cut corners, as long as you're not trying to go to the top overnight, and we understand that. Everything we do is with the vision of where are we going to be in 10 years? How do we stick to our formula of, is it entertaining, inspiring, or educational? That's it. Those are one of the three have to happen for us to produce it. So it's kind of a little behind the scenes there. Just went on a little rant. Alyssa's in the other room right now. She's working on her stuff for the week. And because we were celebrating the days thing, I was like, we'll probably talk a lot about days stuff. So she's like, well, you do this one and we'll film the podcast later. But I did. I talked to Christopher Sean. Him and I chat all the time. But I was thinking, once I did the days thing, I was like, I've answered a lot of questions, and I was like, since I'm not there, but I just wanted to, it just felt weird to me because I didn't know that Days of Our Lives was going to do a virtual one. So I was like, well, I don't want to miss it. I want to at least be there because we've been there almost every year for the past 9 years. Maybe I'll have some good news for you one day where I'm making an appearance or something. Back on there. Okay. Couple more. I got to save my voice for the podcast. I like that, James. Fond memories of auditioning for Days. I will answer that in just 1 second. And then just to reiterate for a few people, because I'm getting a few of the same questions that people popping in now. I'll make this like 20 seconds just to catch everybody up. I have talked to Chandler. I've stayed in touch with him, and yes, I am open to going back to the show. I just don't know what that would look like because now we're now living in Florida. But I did say that if there was ever a way to go back for like 3 weeks or here and there and do that, I would love that. It'd be kind of the lottery, if you will, that I could kind of do both. But the idea of ever moving back to LA and working full time, I think that chapter has ended. But I'm hoping I can still be part of the show in some capacity. But that's not up to really me. It's up to the show and what they want to do. But I just wanted to be upfront with everybody of what my mindset is with it. But I'm not counting it out. I would love to be a part of that show as long as I can. Wait, what was the big question? Oh, yeah, the auditioning. All right, let me answer that one. Do that right there. So, yeah, the audition process, I just remember Oh my gosh, you have so many good questions. What are you doing to me? Let me do the audition thing first. And it was during a time where I was auditioning like crazy. I had a little bit of a big head because I had just booked 90210 in December of 2010. And I auditioned for Days in March of 2011. I think I auditioned for the role of Chad a couple years ago. Not a couple years ago, but back in like 2008, a couple years before my Sonny audition. So I was familiar with the casting director, and I remember going in, and one of my biggest fears, and I remember talking about this on the Spectrum Pride event that we did virtually earlier this month. I was playing a gay character on 90210. And it was looking like I had a real shot of becoming a series regular on 90210, which at the time, primetime, had a lot more viewers. And primetime, maybe not a lot more viewers, but it held a higher standard in the acting world. For some reason, soaps get a little bit of a bad rap in the acting industry. Not as much anymore. But there was something about prime time that casting and producers liked. I feel like a lot of soap people were pigeonholed. But at the same time, how many famous people came out of soap operas? I don't like when people talk crap on soap operas. I really don't. I know so many great, hardworking people who are so talented. And I think it's just this social stigma where people want to make jokes about it. And I get how the slapping and the dramatic stuff, but that's the genre. Like, that's what we do. But anyway, I was like, I'm gonna be on 90210, and I was just kind of riding that wave. And then with Days, when that role came out, originally it was like a high school jock. And I went in for the first read. I read for the high school jock role, like Robert or something. And then in the callback, Marnie asked me, the casting director, she goes, "So we really like you," or had the vibe of, I'm sure she said that, I don't remember exactly, but the vibe of, "Hey, we want to let you know that the character is not Robert, and the character is not straight. The character is going to be gay. He's going to be already out, and we wanted to let you know because now this is the callback." And in the room, I said, "I appreciate that. I think that's awesome. I'm playing a gay role right now on 90210. And I am going to pass because I don't want to be or typecast as only playing gay characters in television." And at the time in 2011, that was a real concern because for all of you who watched TV in 2009, 10, and 11, how many gay storylines were there? How much LGBTQ representation was on television and in movies? Not much. So I didn't care about playing a gay role twice. I was just afraid if I'm known as the guy who plays gay roles and there's only one gay role to book a year, I was afraid I would never book again or only be up for a couple of those roles a year. So I was nervous and I turned it down in the room and I left. And for those of you who've heard this story before, I'm sorry, but I bet you a lot of people haven't. So I'll finish it up quickly. So I left. A week goes by. My manager calls me and says, "Hey, I just saw the role of Days of Our Lives got re-released to the public. Whatever happened to your callback in there? Did it go well?" And I said, "Yeah, it went well. They liked me, but I told her no." And he goes, "What? Are you insane?" He's like, "You never tell anybody no until the offer's made and everything's a done deal. You need to get back in there. I'm going to call her and see if I can get you back in." Well, during that week, they auditioned 7 people, or they tested, meaning they brought 7 actors, Guy Wilson being one of them, into the set and tested for Sonny. And they go, "None of these characters are Sonny." So they did all these auditions. I said no. The week goes by and they go, "We like Guy Wilson the best. Let's bring him back, but we need to re-release this role because none of these people are Sonny. But we do like Guy Wilson. Potentially he could be Sonny." My manager calls back up, gets me back in the room. I go through the whole process again, and I end up testing. Me, Guy Wilson, and 5 other guys went to the set. I tested with Judy Evans and Chandler. And after the test, they said there was only one choice, and it was me. So I think that's kind of fate. That I literally said no. They didn't find someone else. And it just felt like the role was me. It was just for me. Like the role was created for me. The universe gave me that role. But the reason that I had the ability is because I auditioned like 500 times. So I was ready for it. So it wasn't just luck, but I felt like it was meant to be. But that's what I remember most about it. It was a crazy time. I was in San Diego and I got the call and they're like, you booked it. It's a 4-year contract. And the last decision I had to make was, do I take this guaranteed 4-year job, guaranteed, meaning if they loved me, they'd keep me for 4 years. Or do I hold out to see if 90210 will bring me back as a series regular in season 4? And the crazy part is that 90210, I was dating in the season finale of season 3. We were dating. I was like, it is impossible for me to not go back for at least an episode or 2 because we're dating. It ended. We're together. But I made the decision. I was like, I'm doing days because it's on the table right now. 90210 was going on a 4-month hiatus. So I said, I'm going to do days. We'll figure it out later. I'm doing days. 90210 comes back. They never called me. They wrote me out. I don't think they liked me very much. Not as a person, but I don't think they liked me as an actor. I wasn't that good back then, and I just didn't fit or whatever it was. But they never called me back. So I'm really happy that I didn't turn away the job of a lifetime in hopes that 90210 would work. So that was just really crazy. It's really crazy to think back. And then Patricia asked me a really good question, and it's a huge, huge compliment, saying just how she's amazing. How did you get so mature at a young age? And it's a combination of a lot of things, and I appreciate that so much. I was not always mature. I always had this drive to be great, to do something fun and amazing with my life, and it was just always built into me. The more I look back now that I have an understanding and perspective of my life when I was 14, 15 years old, like who I am as a person has always been in there. But your mind can be flipped depending on what you're putting in it, what your diet is for your mind, who you're surrounded with, and basically just what you're pumping your head with. So when I went out to LA, I was definitely this punk kid and just a wild punk kid. 18 to 23 years old was just an absolute shit show of a lot of success and a lot of just craziness all mixed in. And in 2014, I picked up my first personal development book. And I always kind of heard, these books are self-help is like not real. And that's, blah, 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 blah. There's kind of like some negative stuff around it. But when I started reading these books, it was fulfilling a part of my brain that was hungry for knowledge, but I didn't have a mentor in my life to help me out with finances. I didn't have a mentor in my life to help me out with tough decisions of how to put my ego in check, how to be mature. And I started reading these books from these very successful people, and they were just making sense to me. Like I was just like, the answers were in these books. So I became an avid reader. And I also had a lot of issues growing up. I had a cushy life until I moved out to LA, where I just had a lot of issues, just like crappy managers, dishonesty, just really got like effed over a lot. Lost a lot of friends. And when you start gaining perspective of the real world, because when you put yourself out there at 18 years old and you just start getting hit in the face with life, that's your greatest teacher, which you've probably heard before. Mistakes are your greatest teacher. And just because I've lived this wild life where I've always taken chances in business, in my career, I've just dealt with an enormous amount of failure. So I think I contribute that to who I am today is I've just failed so much that it keeps me humble. I think a lot of success goes to the people's head. There's a lot of actors and actresses who get micro famous or famous at a young age, and they kind of stop growing because they never want to sit in the back of the classroom again and be humbled and learn something new. They like being at the top and the pedestal. And it's like, you're great in one field. I want to be great in a lot of different fields. I like starting something new. I want to write a book. Well, how do you do that? You got to sit in the back of the classroom again. Well, how do you write a book? How do you get it published? How do you organize chapters? I want to raise money for a web series. Well, how do you write a web series? I want to shoot my own film. I want to start an online business. Well, how do you do that? Well, how do you market? How do you do Facebook ads? There's just a lot of things I've always had to learn, and I have failed tremendously. Almost to the point now that I just know there's so much failure ahead and that I've gone through that I'm just used to it now, where I'm just like, well, there's wins in those failures, but I put myself out there. So with every single failure, I learn something new and I bring it to my next project. I think the reason that I'm able to connect with all of you and build content the way we are is because I was a public speaker and coach for 4 years, where my entire life for 4 years was selling, marketing, and traveling around the United States, doing presentations, talking to people, doing one-on-one coachings, learning about individuals. I worked with people from 18 years old to 72 years old. And I really started understanding people at their core. And I started understanding that no one's alike. My perspective shifted there, whereas though we all share this country, we all share this world, we do not see it the same way. We just don't have the same experiences. Just because you were my age, if you're a man who's 32, born in March and born in Ohio, who cares? Because you and I have a different life completely. Your relationship with your parents, your relationships with your significant others, dating. Did someone get sick in your family? Did you lose somebody? How did people treat you? Is there anything sketchy that happened in your past that you have to work out with a therapist? Or, I mean, there's so many things that is just a booklet of a collection of experiences that each individual has. And that's why also, even in these crazy times of politics, is like everyone's so divided. And I'm like, no, you can't count out that half the country's wrong on each side. Like everybody thinks that they're right, and they are in most ways because of the experiences they've collected. The reason they care about a certain issue or lack of that issue is because of the experience or lack of the experience they've had in their life. I have no idea what hundreds of millions of people have gone through. But when I worked with people for 4 years, I was on the phone with people 16 hours a day, even on set. I would do my work and go home, and I'd be with people and I'd be coaching, and you learn about the individual. So I started having great empathy, understanding that we all share this planet, but how we see it, the things we care about are all different. So I don't judge people. I just take note. If somebody makes me unhappy, I just don't mess with them anymore. I just leave them alone. So I did a few things. First, I learned all that, and then I also just stay away from people who don't make me happy. I'm completely fine with cutting people out of my life in a very polite way, because if someone's negative or jealous, the relationships that I had and the crappy friends that I had when I was 21 makes me sick to think that I ever put up with that. But I had no idea. But now I'm very picky on that. And then lastly, Alyssa and I went through 3 back-to-back life-changing, devastating life events. One being the car accident, which changed everything. We were in a car accident in 2014. We both nearly died. The fact that we're even here is a miracle when you look at how the car fit through these 2 telephone poles so perfectly that if you replayed that 100 times, we wouldn't be here. It was the first time I was completely humbled, and my invincibility went away, because I just realized, like, oh my gosh, I'm not invincible, even though I was at the height of my life at that moment before I was humbled. And the legal repercussions that came along with that were humbling. When you think you're going to go to jail and your life is over, and you know what real fear is. The state of Ohio pressed charges because I was drinking the night of that. So Alyssa didn't, obviously, but the state of Ohio pressed charges, and it was a huge, huge deal. So if there was like 3 months that I was terrified for my life, and after working it all out, I ended up not doing any time. But I was able to, I got sentenced to 2 years of probation, which was also a humbling experience. I remember one time having to you had to basically do a drug test randomly. And I remember when I went back to days, I'll never forget the day of Guy Wilson playing Will at his funeral, where I was given a speech. I was there for 12 hours, 7 to 7 that day. And I got up at 4 or something in the morning, and I had to drive to Van Nuys, and I had to go stand in line and have a grown man watch me pee into a cup and seal it in a bag to test me for drugs and alcohol as part of my probation, and then leave this place with people that need a lot of help. A lot of people there who just got dealt crappy hands. And when you're in that kind of system and you just see the people who are just in big, big trouble, and you just leave, and I'm driving in my car at 6 a.m. going to a national television show. It's very strange. It's very odd. And makes me want to do a whole podcast about this, actually. There's a lot to these stories. But anyway, I was in trouble. Alyssa had 12 surgeries. We got hit financially terribly. And so that just humbles you. And then right when we were getting back on our feet, I got a call that our business manager had been pocketing all the tax money that I'd been sending. So when she's like, hey, you owe this for taxes, and I'd write the check, or I would send the money, or do however we did it, she was pocketing all that money. And I owed the IRS 3 years worth of money, and my business manager disappeared. And we went from having money to really being stressed. And I was still on probation. Alyssa was still having surgeries, and we had no money. All our money was gone. So we went from being on top to 14 months later going through all this legal stuff, Alyssa in the hospital, relearning how to walk, doing random drug tests at probation offices, working on the show, and then finding out that all our money's gone and that we were $120,000 in debt and we were broke, and we were just sitting there like, what are we going to do? So we lost everything. And that was 2015. And then in 2016, the business that we had built, or 2017, the business that we had built had went from a 6-figure business to barely paying the rent. And this all happened at once. So from 2014, 15, 16, and early 17 was what changed my entire life. Because when you go through all that, the perspective that I get, it's really hard for me to be a snooty actor when you realize, though I feel important, I'm equally not. Like I need to work and prove myself on a daily basis. I love the saying, you're only as good as your last at bat. I was a great athlete in high school, but I don't rest on that and go, wow, I was so great. Or just anything in my life, or even with days. Like if I never do it again, I can't just hold on to that as my glory days. Like I gotta, like, what's next for me? Like, how do I grow? How do I impact people? Because I've impacted so many people with this role, and that was orchestrated for me. Someone wrote that for me. I'm excited for this next chapter that I'm going to write it. And if I impacted 1 million people with Sonny, can I impact 2 million people as Freddie? 3 million? What can I do? And I just feel with that life experience that I've had, those ups and downs, I learned a lot. And if I would have had someone like me in my life when I was 22, maybe I wouldn't have made those decisions. Maybe I would have paid closer attention to my finances. Maybe I would have not got behind the wheel. Maybe I would have just made better decisions. And my parents were always there for me. They're amazing. They've been my rock. I've had great support systems, but I mean, in a field of business and trying to live with all these sharks in LA. And I had to learn that myself. And I'm a stronger person from having swam with the sharks and won and got out. And luckily I'm here. And I just think I have a unique experience now and a unique story that the average person might not have because I was there for 15 years. So I have all the good stories, all the great memories, and I got a lot of horror stories. And I want to use this platform to share all of them. And that's why we wrote that book and self-published it. The Pivot Principle was basically everything we used in our life to get through this. And came back on top, you know? It was a rough year where we could have played the victim. That's why I can't stand people who play victim. It bothers me more than anything because I was working on the show, running a business while I literally thought I was going to go to jail, and Alyssa was in the hospital not knowing if she was going to walk again. And I never went into daze and went, my life is so terrible right now. And like, I don't know my lines. And like, you all don't have any idea how bad my life is. No one even knew. None of the fans knew. No one knew. No one knew how bad it was because I don't complain. I just go, well, this is my life right now. So what are you going to do about it, Freddie? What are you going to do about it? Man up. You made a mistake. Fix it. Fix it. Grow from it. And that's what I did. And I didn't bring my baggage into work. I didn't bring my baggage to my friends. I didn't complain to my friends. I didn't ask for help. I didn't ask for handouts. And I just go, I'm going to make this happen. And I got back on my feet. And I think that comeback is the last and final piece of why I get that a lot. And I'm only saying that because I've gotten a few comments where people say we seem a little older. And I take that as a huge compliment because I just think that means that maybe we just have, you know, more knowledge maybe or something than you would typically think in someone who's 32 years old. But it's just because I feel the life of extreme highs and extreme lows packed into those 15 years is probably what is normally in someone's 30 years or 50 years or something. So we just got forced to grow. It's like the same story you hear of kids, and I'm not comparing myself to this at all, but like the kid who had parents that, you know, one was in and out of jail, the other one was struggling with substance abuse, and she was 12 and she became the mom of her two younger siblings. And that girl at 23 is much different than a girl at 23 who had no responsibility other than the normal responsibilities of a kid to just live and go to prom and have fun and just hang out. That 23-year-old who raised her two younger siblings in that household is going to not even seem, but will have more life experience in the street, if you will, than the person who did it. So I think just the amount of struggles that we've had and just the people that we've met. But also we actively seek the knowledge now. So for any of you out there who don't make the mistakes, you know, you don't want to fail. You don't want to make the mistakes. You don't want to get into trouble. You don't want to do that. And maybe by listening to podcasts, by maybe reading books, finding good books to read, you can, you know, fill your mind with great stuff and make better decisions off of it. So that's what I do. We spend so much time reading, so much time listening to people who are way smarter, way more qualified, way more life experiences, and they kind of aggregate a bunch of stories. So that's how I hear about stories of like in 1620, there was this guy who did this. And you're like, oh my God, what a great story. What a great lesson. So Patricia, I think you just asked a wonderful, wonderful question. I haven't talked about that in a very long time. I appreciate you so much. I think maybe sometime this week, I'd love to dive into these stories much more on the podcast. I just try to, I hope it falls more on the inspiring side. I don't ever want to seem like I'm bringing up like past trauma or anything, but it is real. It is true. It's all what happened. And the learning experience is what made me who I am today. So, but that's why we have this. I'm going to wrap this up. I know we've been going for a long time. I appreciate you all so much. But this is why I'm so grateful to have these platforms to talk and share my stories, because I just feel like that's the best I can do, is take the things I'm learning in life, share it with all of you, and I hope I can impact people in a positive way. I hope that we can entertain. I hope we can inspire. I hope we can educate. And I'm glad we're on this journey together now, because we're just getting started. We're 32 and 33. I'm excited where we're going to be in 2 years, where we're going to be in 5. And now I can keep you up to date in real time, because that's something I didn't have all those years ago. But now that we have a podcast, now that we have access to all these amazing technologies, we'll be able to take you on our journey of the wins and losses, of the failures and the achievements. And I will definitely be out there doing events, and I want to meet all of you so bad. Your attention, your support has meant the world. I can't thank you enough. And I'm just so excited for this journey, and I'm wishing you all a safe week. And I really hope that we can get this country back open and get everyone's jobs back, and we can all safely get together and throw some big parties and hug each other and take pictures. So hopefully that'll happen sooner than later. I appreciate you all. I love you all. Have a wonderful, wonderful week. And I can't wait to start up the podcast this week. So we'll be putting up one tomorrow. So check that out. And I appreciate you all so much. Have a good one, everyone.